I think we have to take it to the speed round because we're at that point in the conversation. Are you ready for some fast and furious questions?
Sure.
If there was one takeaway that you'd like our listeners to walk away from this conversation today with, in one or two sentences, what would that be?
Be clear about what your price times quantity is, because that's going to drive the type of investor that you may need to pursue. Get really narrow on your communications. These are really big concepts in healthcare. How do you make it so that you're communicating effectively at both the short-term execution and the broad impact that you and your startup can make?
Wolf. Warren, I am a nerd about strategic planning. It's like the very end of Q1. It's basically the beginning of Q2 when we're talking today. Which quarter is your head in currently, your strategic planning brain in?
I'm probably already thinking about next year, frankly, but it's all the execution that we agreed to at the end of last year that we're now in the middle of. Any founder will tell you how hard it is to have those dual roles, right? Which is vision as well as execution. And that's this balancing between vision and execution I have to do the same thing every day.
Do you have a spicy soundbite to share? Maybe a hot take on technology, AI, culture, beyond?
AI is a great tool, but it is not a panacea. And we are treating it at times like it is a panacea. There's some great stuff that it's going to do and is having an impact in healthcare. But I think we're still at the early stages of figuring this out. We had the notion of grid computing back in the late 90s. Actually, if you go back and research 1970s, it only became relevant when cloud computing was what everybody was building, Azure, et cetera. Are we at the same or similar moment? Because we're modifying existing workflows. Are we really changing the way that business works? And healthcare, being a laggard of investment, probably is one of those areas where there's probably going to be a couple of waves of change and transformation. But it's a kind of a semi-spicy take, because I think there are certainly folks who would say that it's going to replace physicians. I don't personally believe that, and I don't think anybody in our organization believes that way. But I do believe that there are overcommitments or overpromises that are occurring. And frankly, the other area that we are hearing from health systems is the overwhelming cost of working with product-focused businesses that are trying to build solutions in this space where they're not getting the returns that they may have been hoping for. And if I've got to choose between a nursing contract or 10 agents, it may be that as a health administrator, I'm having to choose that nursing contract because those nurses can do multiple different things, particularly if the ROI is not sufficient. And so I think that's a challenge that every startup has to have. And we've got this going back to the P times Q issue, which is that there's a price that has to be reached or to hit that value, because there's a finite number of quantities within healthcare. And they're not normally that large, right? 800,000 physicians, 4 million nurses, 1 million cancer patients, 120,000 obesity patients in the country. These are different numbers and the prices that we're willing to pay for each one of those things can be different. And so I think the challenge is that if we are going after small quantity values and we're jacking up those price values, that's where we're seeing some of this challenge within adoption in healthcare at times. But then we're all complaining about the expanding footprint of the cost of healthcare, right? We're almost at 20% of GDP, growing at 8%, 5 to 8% a year. That's not sustainable. And some of this pricing stuff is going to be driving some of those changes. So there's a macroeconomic challenge that this introduces, but it comes all the way down to how are we thinking about cost-effective transformation within healthcare, and how is there adoption that's meaningful at the point of whether that's a workflow, a clinical activity, et cetera.
Warren Templeton, Managing Director at Health2047. It has been such a pleasure and a masterclass to talk about health tech innovation with you. I love this model of impact and revenue as the mark for success as we're looking at transforming the health system and health tech in general. There could not be more simple, straightforward advice than to really understand your P's and Q's and the model that you are building and use that to understand, are you delivering the impact at the right price that you're setting out to do? This wonderful summary and just fantastic advice that you shared with us. This has been such a treat, and I hope anybody who's trying to break their way into health tech innovation, the operational side, health AI, listens all the way through. I'd be remiss to end the show, and I'm going to put this up at the top before this meaningful. What's the best way that people can follow up and learn more about the work that you're doing?
LinkedIn is my kind of bread and butter. So find me on LinkedIn, Warren Templeton. And then if you are working in innovation or have a startup that is creative and you think you want to get involved in our portfolio, we have an application on our website, health2047.com/apply. Please kind of have a look there. And look, we're always looking for startups. I'd rather speak to more founders than fewer. So if you think you got something and maybe we get just a little bit of advice, let's have that conversation as much as if you think you're going to get to some capital. We invest in 2 to 3 startups a year. So we are very high conviction, narrow focus, but love to talk to founders. It's the only way I can do my job better.
My goodness. Warren Templeton, thank you so much for joining me on the Tech Glow Up. This was really a fantastic conversation.